50 artists. So without further ado, we want to get going. So we'll say more at the end, but just a little house cleaning. Again, just make sure you're on mute unless you want to ask a question, or towards the end, we'll have open questions. Each artist will have 10 minutes to present, and then 5 minutes for a Q&A directed directly towards their presentation. And Arantxa and I will both be timing, and we'll give a little shout out when it's 1 or 2 minutes for each of those segments. If you didn't get a chance to ask your question of a particular artist, write down your questions, write it in the chat to remember or whatnot. And we'll have hopefully some time at the end as well to have a general Q&A session where you can ask the artist, any of the artists or all of the artists a question. The exit's behind you over at the stage left over here. Anyways, enjoy the artist talk, and I'm going to turn it over to my fabulous co-curator, Arantxa Rodriguez, and she's going to take it away for the talk.
Hi everybody. Thank you so much, Heidi. Hello everybody. I'm very happy to see you here. Welcome to all our artist speakers and also all our other artists who are in the show, Maria, Elina, and I think all the other artists. Oh, Colette is here. Yeah, so it's amazing. I love that we are all here together talking and showing, and to all our guests, we're very excited to have you here. And I don't think I have to say anything else but that I'm grateful for this amazing evening. So our talk today is religion, mysticism, spirituality, and politics. So it's quite a cool mix. Why did we add politics in there? Because I think it goes well with the theme, because it's nowadays I think that politics is kind of a religion. So it's a good mix and match. So we're gonna have Janet Restino, we're gonna have Carla Maldonado, Amada Cartoons, known also as Amada Cartoons, Vera Tse, Tine Kindermann, and so can everybody please unmute yourselves, because I'm getting a little interference there. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. Yes, let's constantly remind ourselves to mute ourselves, because if not, we can interrupt the talks. And unfortunately, Father Graham won't be able to join us today. He was gonna do a little presentation at the end, but I guess we only have our woman artists, and that is amazing. So thank you so much. Janet, are you ready? Janet is the first one. So you have to unmute your phone so we can hear you. Not your computer, your phone, because your audio is through your phone.
It seems to go off itself every now and then. All right, you can hear me now?
Yeah, it's because I think I don't know if it's because
maybe you do. Okay, all right. So, am I on now?
We can hear you, but
okay.
if you want to go on, yeah.
Share screen. Okay, here we go. And here I am here, share. All right. This is the first for me doing this kind of video slideshow. And we're starting here. Thank you very much. Glad to be here, Heidi and Arantxa. Thanks for making this happen. And speaking of things happening, first I should mention something about synchronicity. I was sitting on a park bench for a moment rewriting this, overwhelmed by the enormity of the topic. And what do I see? Two people wearing "Thou shalt not COVID thy neighbor" mask. I got a kick out of that. Somewhat biblical, one of the commandments, and a guy walking past me wearing a t-shirt that says "God is dope." All right, that's synchronicity for you. I love when that happens out of the spiritual world. And I was just thinking about dichotomies, light and dark, good and evil, and what happened today in Colorado, which, just tears us all up. So how was I to fit in my talk of religion and spirituality with the enormity of the topic. It's like, 1,000 pounds of onions in a 1 pound bag. Why onions? So many layers, so many layers, so many layers. Preserve Mother Earth. While I'm talking, I'm going to show some of the fruits of my labors as an artist coming from the great tree of Mother Earth. Aided and abetted by art supplies, tools, digital media, and the voice I finally found. And this bird on my windowsill, the bird is a symbol of the Holy Spirit. Joseph Campbell said, art is the set of wings to carry you out of your own entanglement. Yes, I agree with that. Give us wings. Give us wings. And while I talk about the spirits, Springsteen was singing Spirits in the Night. There's the Holy Spirit symbolized by the dove. There's alcohol spirits too. A loaf of bread, a glass of wine, and thou is communion, bread and wine. Spirits is soul. Spirits is soul. And we are living in a material world with that soul. As George Harrison sings, and we see things we can't see or touch. There's precognition, there's ESP, all manner of things. That church, let me go back one, that's where I got started in religion. Can you hear me? Did I go off? Okay, I'm good.
We can hear you. You're good.
Okay. Religion is, Google will tell you there are 4,300 religions in the world. I grew up in one of them and went to this particular school and church for 8 years. And for 12 years of education, dominated by Western world patriarchy, nuns, priests, doctrine, dogma, catechism. Any question that couldn't be answered about God and Christ was a mystery of faith. And you were supposed to believe. There was no free thinking, no discussions of other religions. The other was to be feared and dismissed. Mass was obligatory, a ritual, a script performed by a man, a missal to recite from. All females were to cover their heads in subservience. Martyrs were heralded. Self-denial was encouraged. So there I am, First Communion. Catechism. First question in catechism, who made me? Answer, God made me, not your mommy and daddy. Why did God make us? God made us to show forth his goodness and to share with us his everlasting happiness in heaven. Okay, all right. These are holy pictures, holy cards. My earliest experience of art was in that church. Statues, stained glass, and bas-reliefs, and the sound of the organ, but the music had no soul. That was my first communion picture. Those were statues that I got as a prize for being the smartest kid in the class. These are more holy pictures. They're holy cards. The nuns gave them to us, or they were given out at a funeral parlor with a deceased name and date of death on the back. I have quite a collection of them. It's a reminder of where I come from. So that was religion iconography. Here's another one. I like the Asian one in particular. We got Christ, Christ with the little children. And we have to thank Michelangelo, speaking of iconography, for covering the Sistine Chapel with our idea of God. This is a couple years after Holy Communion in my school uniform with grandma. I'm not looking quite so happy there with all of this catechism and indoctrination. Little cartoon I did, nuns and nudes, breaking free. What do we have here? Here's a banner. New consciousness is here now, and you are it. Yes, it's time for a transformation after getting out of high school and 12 years of that. Went to Temple University. It was the time of the hippies and Woodstock and letting freedom ring, liberation. Learned about gods and goddesses, Greek mythology, philosophy. I met Jews, I met hippies, I smoked pot, I married a Jew, I became a hippie, I gave up Catholicism, I tripped on acid and mescaline a few times. I opened up. I could feel spirits in the forest, and I danced with them. Heavenly body works. Oh, yes, indeed, because sometimes we do get into collisions and we do need some refinishings. So that takes us to art school and becoming an artist for real. I'm going to show some of the work I did, and I've chose mostly female figures for that. These are sculptures of mine, carvings, bronzes, waxes. More sculptures. I like these little ladies. Most of these are very small works, as you can see in my hand. Here's a mother and child. More sculpture. More sculpture. And here, this is me at Tompkins Square Park. This was on actually 9/11 around 2015, 2016. I've got the Venus figures again, and this time I've coupled them with writing on the wall. This is my peace poem, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. That was a great event that took place. We don't do it anymore. So speaking of writing, it's like a butterfly. Writing is like a butterfly. It comes to you and you catch it with a net and then you release it at times. Here's that Venus again, coupled with some writing. I am the straight arrow. This is a piece that is in the exhibit in Revelation Gallery. And
2 minutes.
again, the peace poem. Here's a link. It's on SoundCloud with a fabulous guitarist. You can listen to this anytime. It's the best version. And here's the peace poem again with some images of women. Here's another version of Peace on Earth, my favorite topic. This is a large banner. And my favorite sculpture, this angel piece. This is actually a woman sculptor, Emma Stibbins. And this is the woman praying, little drawing. So politics, 9/11 happened, and here we are with my response to 9/11. World Trade Center, here's some more pieces that I did coming out of that. More political work against Trump, did several videos and slideshows of Women's March and Not My President's Day March. And Nelson Mandela, that kind of started me out doing political artwork back in 1989 when I heard he was imprisoned and I heard his story. It prompted me to do these pieces of work. The writing just comes to me, and I'm thrilled that I can just kind of write it down as it happens. This is the cover of a self-published book called Canary in a Coal Mine. Has a lot of philosophical stuff in it, and I think you all might enjoy it. This is the book. Also, this one's all about love. Also, a page from that is in the gallery, and that's probably my time. I thank you very, very much for this opportunity to show a little of my work. I wanted to also to mention that when I went to art school, I had a lot of vivid dreams. I started making journals, and that was also the beginning of writing. I read about Carl Jung and this whole thing of feeling like I had guides coming to me and directors telling me, yes, make art, yes, do this, yes, you can do it. So it was the beginning of learning to trust myself rather in the spirit in me, rather than taking orders from the church. So it was a higher religion and a higher connection with the spirit.
Wow.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was great. Wow. And 10 minutes guiding us through all your life journey it was beautiful. I love how you did that switch from the Catholicism, the religion, and then full liberation, which I think being in touch with your spirit is, a whole thing. So We're gonna open to, yeah, it was beautiful. Thank you. We're gonna open to questions now. If you can stop sharing your screen, Janet, please,
Okay.
so we can all see each other.
Okay.
And if we need to go back to your presentation for reference, you can jump back in. So yeah, I leave it up to the crowd. Does anybody have questions?
I also really enjoyed traveling around your religious education and then religious awakening and getting to, your freedom, liberation, hippie experience, acid, LSD, all of that going on. And I would like to ask you, like, what part of both the Christianity and this liberation parts of your life, how are they in your work now? Do you think they both inform your work equally, or do you think they kind of complement each other?
Wow, that's a big question. I mean, all of that is still in me, whatever I've, in one way or another, like I've kept, the holy cards, I've kept, the report cards, the missals, the statues, I've kept, visual reminders of where I come from. I don't even think I would call myself a Christian now. I'm not against Christians. I'm not unchristian like, I I do not want to see images of Christ on the cross. I was force fed that for so long in my life. I'd rather look at a statue of Buddha and, gain some solace from that. In fact, there was a picture of Buddha. I think I skipped by it accidentally. So I don't know how to answer the question. I mean, it's there. And even the fact that my concentration on, female sculpture, certainly must have come out of, looking at all those statues. I left out some things. One was that I used to pray to the statue of the Virgin Mary so hard. You heard stories that the Virgin appeared to the children of Fatima, and miracles were performed. So I believed all this, hook, line, and sinker. And I'd stay after Mass and pray hard to the Virgin, to the statue, which is really idolatry, thinking if I prayed hard enough, she would come out of that statue and come to me, I would have this vision. I just really bought all this so deeply, took it to heart. Now, if I have to go to a Catholic church for somebody's funeral, that kind of thing, I'll go, but I'm not going to kneel. Plus my knees hurt, arthritis or whatever. But I mean, I'll be respectful, but I'm not spray painting or any statues or anything. But it's my past, and I have some respect for it. But what respect I don't have is how brainwashed we were. I mean, we were just so totally brainwashed. I could remember, specific nuns, their attitudes, about don't play with Protestants or don't go bowling. It's an occasion of sin. I mean, they were fanatics. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was very, very strict indoctrination. So liberation is still happening. Well, this is like putting myself on the couch, understanding, the effect of various training and dogma. Does that answer your question? I hope.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I feel like the reason why I'm asking, I also went to a nun school in Brazil. I also being raised in this whole like Christian background. That's why I was just willing to see your answer. But yeah, you answered the question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We have one more minute, so go ahead.
I wanna comment on something you said. You said that you prayed to the statue for her to come out.
Yeah.
and go to you. I think it did, because look at all the statues that you're doing now. Look at all those fertility goddess that you're doing. I think she heard you, to be honest. So there's something in there. There's
That's
something
funny.
in there. I feel that
That's
I
funny.
feel that there's something in all
But that
religions,
was
I
the
think.
Virgin Mary. See, that's a big part of it. It was the Virgin. And, you know, Catholicism had this whole virgin whore dichotomy. You got the Virgin Mary, and then you've got Mary Magdalene. I mean, wow, what could be more different? But thank you for that. That's very, very sweet. You know,
It's a world of duality. It's a
yeah,
world of
yeah,
duality.
yes,
That's
yes,
how it is.
yes, yes. Thank you.
Great. Well, we'll save any questions that you might have for Janet towards the end, and Aranza will introduce our next artist. Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome.
So Carla Maldonado is gonna be our next artist. So yeah, Carla, you can introduce yourself. Thank you, Carla.
Sorry, let me share my screen. It did work before, didn't it? Okay. So hi, my name is Carla Maldonado. My website's carlamaldonado.com in case you want to see some of my work. But for this little show and tell, I kind of chose some of the works that I think kind of leads to the work that I'm showing now for this amazing exhibition. And I'm so thankful that I'm part of it with so many other talented women artists showing. So I think I'm going to guide you through how my practice actually became political, and that I always had a very documentarian practice, going around trying to understand how, where did I belong and what my voice was in the society that we live in, as fucked up as it is. And then I feel like when Trump got elected here in the US, that's when I actually felt like I saw many different groups, and I started understanding all these different causes that I was fighting against, that I was fighting for, being feminism, being climate justice, being social justice itself, that they were all the same place. Like I should be blaming on the same enemy. They're not separate in that way. They're all coming from white supremacy. And I feel like that became very clear to me when I moved to the US, and like a year later, Trump became elected, and I could see all the damage that just his representation as a president of the US was doing to the whole world. So this is a photograph that I took the day that the elections got counted, and everybody was in the streets in New York crying, desperate, like protesting. And that was a very important moment to me. And when I really started diving in politics as a subject of my work. And then later, you know, the way that the US influences the whole world, and I'm from Brazil. So I feel like in a way, Brazil is colonized by the US economically and culturally in so many levels. And Trump being elected in here also gave the election, you know, now we have Bolsonaro as the president, which is even a worse version of Trump, if anyone can say that. It's crazy for me to say that, but that's true. And then this work that I did was when I went to Brazil right after Bolsonaro's elections as well. This was his first day of office. And this looks like a street party. It was kind of supposed to be a street party, but everybody was in the streets. Actually, the kind of audio they were listening was protest audios where people just revolted about the idea of Bolsonaro being president. And then the main image that you see on the middle is a wall that people were writing on saying, "Not him." It was just like the slogan that progressive movements of Brazil was trying to put on. It's like anyone but Bolsonaro. That didn't really work very well, and he's still the president. And I feel like my connection with Brazil became a lot stronger also when I came to live in the US, and I started going deeper in the forests and the biomes of Brazil and visiting friends and people that I met. And then I ended up making work about the Amazon forest and documenting different indigenous groups in Brazil, but particular one that I stayed with and I lived with for a few weeks. And just understanding how political choices and how politically Bolsonaro was able to take away so many rights that they fought so many years to get. And destroying their lands and taking away their rights and really committing a genocide that he announced that he was going to do during his elections. But again, like Trump saying all the things that he wanted to say and not being held accountable for this. The same thing happened in Brazil. So this is a 4-channel video. Those are some stills of this video. It's pretty much documenting me having conversations with these people that live in the Amazon forest close to the city. So they don't live in the romanticized idea of the forest. They do have many needs and they're highly affected by Western culture. So it was a very different political awakening, coming from a privileged place that I had, coming from a big city in Brazil. And then I started heavily making work about the destruction of the Amazon forest and everything that was going on in Brazil. All the fires that was going on in there, not like the fires that were happening around the world. There were actually criminal fires that were caused by farmers that wanted to clean the Amazon forest in order to exploit it economically for different things, being mining, illegal logging, you name it. And then I started making a lot of work with the news that I was looking at, because it was just all over the place, but people were ignoring because the world is a mess, right? Like how many things you can pay attention to, how many things you can look at. So then I started making different installations and documenting different voices, different indigenous activist voices in Brazil. So then I met a handful of amazing activists when they came to the UN here in New York to speak about crimes against humanity that Bolsonaro was doing, including crimes against indigenous populations in Brazil. So this is a still of another film that I did with them giving an interview saying that they came here to tell the world that Brazil is killing indigenous people. And I feel like the world's still not listening to it. And this was 2 years ago. And then there's another work that I did. This is actually a video installation, a multi-channel video mapping on a still photograph. And then I was just reproducing a lot of images that I was seeing of the Amazon forest burning, especially while Bolsonaro was absolutely not doing anything because it was his own interest and the Amazon was just burning for months and months without any action being taken. So this was also me ruminating the idea of like me being afar, me looking at those images, me trying to understand what that means. And the idea of fire, like restarting and building over, but that doesn't really work like that when it comes to a rainforest. And Brazil actually right now has 60% of the rainforest in the world. So this is a bigger problem. This is not local. And then that leads me to the piece that I have in the show now. When I was in the Amazon forest, I was also photographing everything on my surrounding. Again, my practice is pretty much about documentation of things that I see and people that I meet. So I'm always looking at distorted beauty of reality to try to imagine something better, or I'm just looking at revolutionaries, misfits, rebels that I can look at and inspire at, because I feel like that's what creatives do, right? We have to imagine a better world or give some kind of solution or just represent it in a way that we would like to see represented, because I do have both parts of my work being very educational in that way that I'm trying to raise awareness and be what reality is about. But when it comes to showing people my vision or my representation of this reality, I kind of get in a more distorted representation of it. So this work is called Self-Portrait Over the Bridge. And I took this picture over a bridge, clearly. And then I was looking down at the water, reflecting this palm tree. And I have this obsession with palm tree. I think everybody loves palm trees, but my palm trees are pretty much in my work being with the forest burning with palm trees around it, or me looking at my reflection with a palm tree with me. And I feel like this is an example of me detaching myself from reality and looking back at these photographs from 2 years ago when I was there, now that I can't go to Brazil because of visa issues and, you know, travel ban. I'm almost done. And I feel like me looking at this image really speaks about the distance that I have from it. And it's beautiful, but also disturbing because I don't really remember exactly, how memory gets lost and it gets faded in a way. So looking at this image, to me, it's pretty much the feeling that I have of like ruminating on my immigrant experience in here, looking back at the forest, not knowing how it looks like, not knowing its shape, and trying to get back to the idea of like being part of nature, right? Because I've heard an indigenous leader once say that the concept of nature is so crazy to them because how do you separate yourself from nature? Why do you call it nature? We're all one thing, we're part of it. When we say I'm going to nature, it's just insane to think about, and it really is. So yeah, I hope you like it. This is the piece on the show, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Carla. This was amazing. I discovered Carla's work in a show, and then what was it, like 2 years ago, I think, and I absolutely loved it. It was the installation of the Amazon fires, and
Yeah.
we became
And we had a
became
really
part of
long
it, yeah.
conversation about that. It was great.
Yeah. It was great, 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 great. Always great conversations with you, my friend. So let's open up to Q&A.
This is more of a comment, but I love what you said about like the word nature and how ridiculous it is. Like I think about that all the time when people say like the environment. Like, what is the environment? Like it's we're the environment. Like it's us. You know, the water you drink it, the air you breathe it. So like, I guess like our language is part of the problem, and that's I really like that you said that.
Yeah, it's very Western to separate, it's the same thing about like binary, right? Like woman and man, nature and science, all of those like binary, those dualities that it doesn't make sense for them to be separated. But
Yeah.
Western culture does separate it. And there's a lot that we have to unlearn, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Carla, I think that your work is very impressive because when we express ourselves as part of a whole thing, because we are part of the universe, is very touching. And I appreciate that because sometimes we are surrounded by forest. Me, that I'm living in Mexico, so I have biodiversity everywhere I see, but I don't realize, really have the conscious of where am I. So it's thank you for your work.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Do I raise my hand? Oh,
Yeah, just go for it, Janet.
oh yeah, Carla. Was there any language issues with people, indigenous people near the rainforest? Did you need translators or interpreters?
No, we all speak Portuguese, and definitely in different capacities. Elderly indigenous people in that community, they didn't have a very fluent Portuguese, but I feel like we never had a problem communicating at all. Like we would find our ways. It was very simple, and it was just me. I didn't have a crew, or like I didn't have anyone else with me, so it was a very personal experience.
That's terrific, and they were accepting of you. Great.
It's different. Yeah, it's different because I wasn't going to like a far place where indigenous communities never had access to Western culture. I was very close to a city. I was 2 hours away from a big city in the middle of the forest. So, and it was by boat. So they do deal with tourists that would come there to look around. They have like a relationship with tourism. They don't have people staying with them very often. It's not a normal thing. But they opened their doors for me. I was supposed to be there for a weekend. I went there and I didn't want to leave. And then I was just like, can I spend the weekend? And they're like, great. And then I was just like, can I be a little bit longer? And then now I was just FaceTiming one of them yesterday. We just became very close, and it was a mutual understanding. Even when the language wasn't fully there, we didn't really need it.
Terrific. And your videos are on your website?
Yes.
Great, great.
I can put it on the chat again if you want to take a look later.
Definitely. Thank you.
Elena, you can just go ahead. You have a question.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you, Carla. Really amazing work. And I'm just really struck by your sense of recording history. And I'm just wondering, because we're all women here, and I just wonder if, as a woman, if you felt at any time like you were trespassing, like kind of like a war correspondent. Some of your documentation of the deforestation felt to me like that could be, you know, kind of dangerous. So I just wonder if you ever felt as a woman that you might be trespassing on this kind of very, you know, Western, very aggressive, you know, capitalized dynamic, and just wondering how you handled that as an artist and documentarian.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Well, yes, I did put myself in dangerous situations before. Some of the work that I was showing, the one with the forest burning, the image of the forest burning,
Yes.
I was alone and I saw it from afar. I was actually driving a car I was in this big city. I wasn't in the indigenous community at this time. And I was traveling from one part of the forest to the other in a highway. And then I saw it and I just pulled my car and went a little bit further. And it was a bunch of men destroying the forest. And I stayed for, I don't know how I did that. I don't know why I did that. I had a lot of people very angry at me when I did that, but I just had to do it. I just felt this urge to like go after it and see it with my own eyes. And just, I had to film that. And I feel like as a photographer too, there's a lot of times where, especially men, they're just like kicking you out of the way, using force.
Exactly.
I'm not super tiny, but I'm not tall, you know? So it's hard for me sometimes to fight this kind of thing. And I do think that I place myself separately, and I don't have some of the advantage points because I don't want to be a part of that, or I don't want to be, you know, fighting with anyone. So there are some struggles, but I feel like we do struggle with so many other things, right? So I feel like it's part of this terrible society that we're on, that like every little part of who we are, if there is no struggle, we're probably just doing what they want us to do. And
I respect, you know, I just got that sense of danger from your, especially, the documentation of the fires, and then the equipment. It just felt very dangerous to me. Like you would have had to have been very careful to.
I was lucky. I wasn't so careful, but I was lucky.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I just, you know, I'm just really impressed and thankful that you have that kind of courage. So
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, everyone, for the wonderful questions and comments. We can continue at the end if there's more things that we want to talk about, because I see that the conversations are very interesting. But now I'm gonna introduce Amada Echeverria, Amada Cartoons. So go for it.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the invitation to participate. I don't think this is the first like art show or talk that I've ever participated in. So thank you so much, Aranza and Heidi, and for all of your work. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Present. It's loading. So this is my presentation on religion, mysticism, spirituality, and politics. And I hope I can make 10 minutes. Sometimes I speak very quickly, so I'm going to try to speak very slowly. Okay, next. So I'm an incredible artist. I'm really famous, and I've done work for brands like Kind, Tinder, Fabergé, and TED. They never asked me for it and didn't pay me, but I did it anyway. And it was really incredible to work with these brands. Some of them even reached out and emphasized and made public statements that they are not affiliated with me. So thank you so much for supporting my work to all these brands. I was born in Mexico City and live in Manhattan. So I would say my work is definitely more through the lens of an American than of a Mexican, but still my heritage, I think, informs some of my work. And my work is hand drawn. It's funny because I don't know how to use Photoshop or like really draw on an iPad, but I'm like technically challenged, even though I'm a computer scientist. So this is a gap that I need to bridge. And I call my work artisanal memes. And they're all in limited edition. They're also overpriced. And my art dealer I have an art dealer. It's not my mom. So if anyone was saying that it's my mom, just asking her friends on WhatsApp to please buy work from her daughter to make her happy and feel good. It's not true. I have a real art dealer. And I just want to emphasize, it's better if you don't buy my cartoons. When you don't buy them, I have a harder time making ends meet, and then I can kind of conform with aesthetics set by males and our male-dominated culture. So you really help me out if you don't buy my work, so I can kind of comply with these standards. So this definition of politics is from Wikipedia, and I know everyone knows what politics is, but I realized that I didn't. My work is not, I never thought of it as political, so I had to go back to the definition of politics to really break it down and see what it was and see how I could make my work kind of fall into this definition. So it falls into it because my work has to do with power relations, certainly in some ways, and with the groups that make decisions. I think I try to satirize elitist culture and power and privilege. So in that sense, I'm able to speak on this topic. So some themes that the cartoons can fall under are privacy and surveillance, kind of COVID-19, power relations through the lens of it, and Trump and immigration, and the fourth industrial revolution. And if there's time left over, I can make fun of men. So these, I noticed while I was studying computer science, I kept drawing cartoons that had to do with data, privacy, and surveillance. So the one on the left has to do, with that rhyme, secrets are no fun. How does it go? Unless you tell everyone or something. So I turned it into the Pentagon, and this is just a commentary on how we used to be scared of wiretaps and being spied on, and now we pay for these devices, and we're giving someone money to spy on us and like allowing these devices into our homes. And there's not really like the ACLU and different organizations are working to make sure that there's like legislation around like how our data is used, obviously, and this is going to improve, I think. But for now, it's kind of like the Wild West in the United States. So you need to be careful around your devices. And then this one is the one on the right has to do with the fact that, every time you're taking a picture of yourself in the mirror, if you do that, it's, ostensibly for someone you care about or want to share it with for fun. You're sending a little love note to the NSA inadvertently, and they're able to see it. So just make sure that, just remember that's your secondary audience. This one, the one on the left, came when I didn't, have a boyfriend, but every time I saw my mom's friends, they'd ask like, "Oh, ¿tienes novio? Like, do you have a boyfriend?" And like, I didn't. But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, I guess Mark Zuckerberg is my boyfriend, because he knows my location at all times, reads my texts, and he knows what presents I want and stores my password, and is constantly recommending me presidents. So I realized Mark Zuckerberg is my boyfriend, and he's always there for me. And then I started noticing, all the kids. This is a little bit old. I think I drew this 2 years ago, but all the kids smoking their Juuls, and started thinking about how it looked like a USB stick and why were they smoking it so much. And I realized it's because they had all of their information stored on that drive, and they must be smoking it to get rid of their data. And as you can see, for a few years, I would take pictures of my drawings and post them, and got this yellowish paper. And then I got a scanner for free. So now my drawings look a little bit nicer. Okay, COVID. I showed this in a presentation a few weeks ago. I'm not sure. I think there's definitely some overlap. I recognize some of you, but I'll go through some of the COVID cartoons. This is the first drawing I ever did that was COVID related. And I think I was definitely in a state of shock. Like everyone was. We were scared. We didn't know what was going on. And I decided to kind of do some drawings about it to self-soothe and have a laugh and relate to people. So I kind of imagined what would happen if COVID was a rock band touring the world, and who would it be sponsored by, and what would the band t-shirt look like. So this one is some workers, and it's a person, we don't know who the person is, in a hazmat suit walking on the street. So it kind of shows the persistence of the male gaze, like even when your body is not visible at all, and it's not even clear if you are of the gender identity that the men like, they'll still find a way to objectify you, even through this material and with the mask. This came. Oh, okay. This came from, I would still had like creepy people on the street looking at me, and I was like, okay, I'm wearing like my pajamas, I have a mask, like you can't even see what I look like stop looking at me for once. I thought this was my time to not have to worry about this, but it wasn't. And this is a cartoon that I did pre-COVID, and post-COVID I did another iteration of it. It's a bit dark. Running out of time. Okay, this is a commercial break to support. So I gave these out, these flyers out, and this business, I worked with them before, and they printed these out for free. So I just wanted to promote them and encourage you to apply for a WB certificate if you have a business. It gives you a lot of, that's one way when being a woman helps you win. If you get this certificate, it'll help your business and help you win government contracts. So a shout out to Small Business Services. And I guess I'll speed through these. Yeah, self-explanatory. Power is always from concentrate, even if your orange juice isn't. Yeah, and this is I got some nasty comments on my Instagram with the ones on the right. I think people at first glance thought that I said that Melania was important, and they thought that I was like appropriating, like I really like the movie The Help. I thought it was really, really nice, and people thought that I was like appropriating the beautiful moment from the movie to talk about Trump, and like absolutely not. I'm making fun of him. Anyway, so because he likes to he doesn't like immigrants, but his wife is one, so I wanted to make fun of him for that and why he makes a distinction there. Anyway, I drew this when everyone was voting. And lastly, I guess I've been thinking a lot about automation and how robots are, and not just robots, but automation is going to affect the workforce. So when I was applying for a job, I felt pretty inadequate. I'll never be as efficient, and I require sleep and breaks for food. So I'll never be the ideal employee like a robot, but I'm trying. And then the one on the right is about how in some cases robots taking our jobs can be beneficial. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching and listening.
Thank you, Amada. Oh my God, you made me laugh quite a lot. I met Amada a long time ago because she's my cousin. And I love her so much. So yeah, let's start the questions and comments.
Love you too. Oh, there's comments. Oh, the certificate. Yeah, so si se parece. Thank you, and thank you, Janet. So this certificate is a WBE certification. I was just doing a commercial break to support this business that I worked with before. We gave out my cartoon printed out during the show at Revelation Gallery, and I just wanted to thank them since they printed them out for free to support Women's Day, and it's a woman-owned business. That's also why I wanted to promote it. And also they have a WBE certification that they recently got, which is given out by the New York City Small Business Association. And if you have a woman-owned business, if you're a US citizen and the business is like 51% or more owned by a woman, you can apply, and it helps you get government contracts. And also a lot of states have a quota that they have to have like 5% of their work subcontracted to women-owned businesses. So it can just help you increase your visibility, help you get more work if you're interested in that. So yeah. Well, thank you.
I have a question for Amada. For Amada. You have a lot of sense of humor in your work, and now that you realize that you Googled the political, the etymología, I don't know how you have to say, but the meaning, the real meaning. How do you expect from now to use that new meaning or that new sense in your work? How, now that you know that you Google it, how do you, or what do you expect? Or from now, what do you, yes, tell me about your expectations.
That's a really good question. I think it helped me realize that, my work is political, and it empowered me to realize that. And I think the effect is that I'm going to make, more political work. I think it's tempting to just draw things that get likes or that are cute and simple. But I want to continue to make more, to make work that is really a social commentary that through humor seeks to have people question different power relations and hopefully, make fun of people in power who don't deserve it. But yeah, definitely part of the definition is, anyway, the distribution of resources and status. These are all things that I think about. So anyway, the short answer to your question is I'm going to make more work that's explicitly political and maybe less work that is just like cutesy and has less meaning behind it. So I feel inspired. I feel inspired.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things that I really appreciated in your sense of humor was that you responded immediately, it seems, to things that happened to you in your life, and you were able to actually transformed them into humor in this really wonderful way. So I appreciated your work. Really lighthearted, but not.
Oh, thank you so much. I think that's something that's interesting about cartoons, is because they don't take as long to draw versus like a painting or a video. You can like react quickly. But yeah, thank you.
We have 1 more minute. I think Elena and Tina
Yeah.
wanted to say something.
Oh, yeah. So I love your cartoons, Amada. I was just wondering, so when you said that you were getting some love letters from the companies who you in your drawings, you said that they contacted you. I was just wondering if you could be a little more specific, like were they like cease and desist, or so how were you treated when you were making these parodies of these very large and powerful corporations, and also Trump? I was just wondering if you have had any kind of retaliation or negative consequences.
Oh, yeah, thank you for your question. And I don't have as much impact as you imagine. I wish I did. I was just kidding. None of them contacted me or noticed me, but one of them did repost it. I drew one about like a restaurant called L'Entrecôte, which is like a steak place, and they actually reposted it. But I was waiting for the other ones to get upset and say something, and they never noticed. So
that's good news for all of us. Yay for free speech.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just like to make a comment. I think, Amada, part of your intrigue with your work is not just the visual, it's how you speak about it. Oh, it's telling me to stop talking. About how you use satire in your description and not just the visual aspect of it. So keep that going. That's great. So I think you not only can get out your work visually, but presenting it, I think that will help engage people and as well. So
yeah, thank you so much for giving me a platform to do that. Like I said, this is my first time ever doing this, so thank you.
Do it very well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amada. Yeah, and you're courageous, and I admire you a lot for that. It's not easy to get people pissed and own it.
I just have to say, if you haven't gone on to see our virtual opening that Aranza did an amazing job producing, you have to see Amada's, what is it, 20 seconds?
20-second clip, yeah.
I'm not going to give it away. You have to go online on our YouTube channel and check it out. You'll love it. Spot on.
Yeah. When I received your 20, and you were one of the first ones that sent it to me. And when I saw it, you made my day. It's hilarious. So yeah, I encourage everyone to. Heidi, can you help me put in the chat the link to that video?
Yes, I'll do that.
Thank you so much. So now it's time for Vera Tse.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for mediating this, and thank you, Heidi. Great to be part of this group of women artists, and it's so international that I felt like the theme that I chose was very appropriate. I'm not typically, I would say, a political artist, but I think the events that have been occurring have really made me sort of become a political artist. It's really about my background, and obviously we all know what's been happening about Asian hate lately in the media. It's been something that has festered in me because I moved to the United States in 1999, and I noticed a big difference because I'm originally born in Hong Kong, and then I moved to Canada in Toronto when I was very young. I moved back to Hong Kong to live for a while, and then because ironically I met very international group of people, and especially Americans who are very liberal. That's what made me move to America, because I saw how good the people were, and I was very interested in learning more about Americans. So I moved to California and lived in San Francisco for a number of years, and I finally ended up moving to New York. So I basically been watching, being from Hong Kong, obviously it started in 2014, the Hong Kong umbrella protests, and then it escalated to the extradition treaty in 2019, which, everybody read in the news. And then finally, the latest, this is during the time of COVID too. So I really wanted to explain my story because I feel my own loss in terms of my history or myself or who I am. So I started making my piece, Lost Suitcase of Hong Kong, RIP. It's sort of the journey of my childhood when I left Hong Kong. And I remember packing my bags one day. My parents just announced we're moving to Canada, because they had announced that the handover is real. Hong Kong was going to be part of China. And I remember that day I was packing my most precious toys, and there were kind of an assortment of things like made in different countries. I remember some were made in Japan, some were made in Hong Kong, and there were these artificial flowers that were strewn along the room because my dad was into import and exporting of goods. So I remember saying to my mom, I wanted to take the flower with me and put it in my suitcase. And she said, no, that's not going to fit. But at that time, I didn't really recognize the meaning that I was going to be gone forever. So I remember running to the airport, and I just left my suitcase. And finally on the plane, I realized when I was about to take out my toy and play that it was gone. And I started crying, of course. So it's kind of like this memory that I've always tried to regain, which is why it's sort of this blank white suitcase. I don't remember anything about it, in terms of the color, the design. I just remember, or even the toys. There's like various versions of it in my memory. And then this is sort of like a recollection of souvenirs in 1997. It's called Colonial Air, because it's the last gasp of an empire, because everybody was commemorating this sort of like Hong Kong's going to be handed over back to China in 1997, July 1st. And I remember my friend brought it to work, and he was like, oh, you got to buy this because it's going to be a collectible. And then I realized, well, maybe it is, because it's never going to come back again. So I started actually making a whole series, because Hong Kong was a colony from basically 1841 to 1997. So that's 156 years. So for me, it was a very meditative process to make these items, because each year was different, and it kind of was all labeled to commemorate the year in which they were bottled, in a way. And each one probably had a memory of its own. And in a way, I wanted to have some way of physically representing it in a very fragile state. And that's why I kind of chose the ceramics as well. I didn't want it to seem mass produced. I wanted that human kind of touch to it. Then I started on a series of cameos, which I'm still making. Cameos, basically Queen Victoria was in power when I guess Hong Kong was a colony, and she really was into cameos. And so I felt like it was kind of like this thing, sort of like these precious objects were more like memories to me, but like kind of like the dragon symbol is from the flag. So it's kind of this odd thing that you have a British flag that has a dragon that's very Chinese, but the whole point of it is it's sort of like this kind of one country, two systems, because it's the same kind of message that they were saying back when it was a colony, is that the dragon was China and basically the lion was the British. So I just wanted to create a series of objects that recalled my memories. This one is old Master Q. He's a cartoon character from, I guess, the 1960s. He's created, and it's like something that I really loved as a child. I had these comic books, and they're still existing. It's the longest running comic strip that existed in Hong Kong, and it's still published. And it's this traditional character who's like kind of like a grandfather, but he would have these characters. And I think children were just really into it. But the funny thing is he was dressed in traditional Chinese outfits. So I think that's the oddity of Hong Kong, is that, you know, were these things that existed that were very traditionally Chinese. At the same time, you would have something like this, which is like a Japanese retro anime girl doll, which was like inspired by my pencil case. I had all these collectible pencil cases that had all these Japanese images, because Japan was a big part of just my childhood growing up, knowing about different cultures. And it was also about idealizing Western beauty, because Asians wanted to look Western. So it's like the blue-eyed, blonde-haired, you know, symbol was kind of already in Asia at the time. And it's kind of weird that it's the same thing today, that people are dyeing their hair wanting to look Westernized. This is one of Andy Lau. He's one of 4 heavenly kings of Cantopop. So I grew up in Canada listening to actually Cantopop, because at the time, a lot of immigrants came from Hong Kong in the 80s, and they actually were there. So I was exposed to music, and it was something that like I basically idolized him like any pop star. But the funny thing is, like, I don't know if the rest of the world even knows about this. And also now they don't sing in Cantonese anymore, they sing in Mandarin. So the funny thing is, even this actor, he's also an actor, he does movies more in Mandarin now and not Cantonese. So it's this kind of loss of language and how it's changing too. This is another piece I'm starting to make. It's called Camel Made in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is part of China, made in Hong Kong. Because goods used to be made in Hong Kong, and now they're not made in Hong Kong because it's now made in China. So the point of this one, it's basically originally this camel flask that was created in the 1940s, and everybody used to use these. I used to have a thermos when I was a child, and everybody would keep hot water there, because that was before they had electricity to create, you know, electronic thermos. So there was this imagery of a camel, because it was supposed to be like so strong, but also this sort of like recollection of a almost like a traveler, almost like Marco Polo and Journey to the East.
2 minutes.
And how I think there's always been this sort of weird reverence with Western and Eastern culture combined in Hong Kong. And now that the production, these are all molds that are basically from things that are purchased in China, that are mass produced. And I wanted to contrast it with the drawing that was handmade, but I'm actually going to gild it in gold and make it into a medallion, because in Chinese gold shops, they actually make good luck symbols out of gold, like 24 karat gold. And I think it's sort of like this kind of, what is the future? It's kind of like consumerism and travel, and also the Western influence that's creating this sort of cycle again of trade. And this is another project that's in process, but it's an installation that I'd like to create. It's the Hong Kong morning flag. So this essentially is a version of the Hong Kong flag. It is now completely different, because they replaced this in 1997 when the handover happened, and now it's like a red. It used to be a blue flag that was a British flag that was inserted with a symbol of what I spoke to you earlier about, the dragon and the lion. And now that flag just disappeared. It became a different flag. So I wanted to create something that people could walk through, kind of like a cemetery. So the center is embroidered, and you can see it's in process. So I'm planning to embroider like a whole series of them and hang them in a room. And these are these artificial flowers again that are now made in China. And the idea is that they're very much like these funeral symbols that you find in Chinese funerals. They often put like a centered piece that's in white or black or something without color, especially for a very old person who dies. So I wanted to do something that, from someone like myself, I want to preserve the memories of objects before they're erased and they disappear from history. Because in some ways, because I grew up in Canada, but also went back, I have this very romantic view of what being a Hong Konger is. And I want people to know about that story, because I feel like everybody says everybody's Asian. We're all the same, but we're not all the same. We all have our story. And I think the idea is the fusion of the East and the West and how we've always been joined together. And I want to remind that Asian hate shouldn't exist as the enemy. It's not where people come from, it's how they join together to be as one. And that's kind of the message I'd like to put forth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful and important closing to your presentation, Vera. Thank you so much. Can you please unshare the screen so we can go to questions, comments? Does anybody have anything to ask, to comment, to share? Thank you.
Your work is really beautiful. Thank you so much. It was just like so inspiring to see how delicate such heavy subjects can, look like when you just translate it throughout your own experience. It was beautiful to see. Thank you so much. I don't
so
have a
much.
question. I'm just
Yeah, I just have this need because I feel like I'm in a process of mourning because I accept that it's over, you see. So I know that it'll never be that way again. And the memories of people in the future will not remember anything that I remember. So I don't see anybody doing anything about it. So I'm trying to spread the word because that's all I can do through art.
When I saw the suitcase in the exhibition, it was so intriguing, but I did not understand the full story behind it. And just thank you for sharing that with us, because it is such a moving and relatable story. And I feel like the piece carries that, but not in an explicit way. So thank you.
Yeah, I think I see them as many different versions of my memories, because I'm almost like thinking that I could do multiple versions that kind of try to like go deep into somewhere where I just don't know what it is I left behind, because it was such a precious thing to me.
You know what I felt with your work, Vera? This whole story of the suitcase and the memories, I feel that I went through that as a child in a way, with another experience, not precisely because having lost something, but there's some memories there that have had an impact that I can still see them clearly, but are still there. So I think that even if it's a very personal and particular story, you hit a vein that I think all of us could share in our own way. And I feel that in art, when you're able to express something so personally and so deep, but that in a way it makes everyone relate to their own story, I think that's one of the reasons that of a successful piece. So yeah, when I was hearing your story, I'm like, I felt that. I've been through something like that in my childhood. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, because I wonder, I mean, that's what's interesting about this exhibition. It's like these international women artists, we all have our stories. How did we move to New York? You know, I'm kind of curious about everybody's story, because obviously we have our kind of reason why, and as artists, we're drawn to New York. It's such a creative capital, but it's so interesting that we have our different experiences.
I'd just like to express the same, Vera, that helping the viewer tap into their own stories and their own memories. So thank you for that. And I also like to add that, wondering what other people's stories are, just a little commercial for our Salonista gatherings, which we used to do religiously, themed here, for about 10 of the first 10 of the 13, 14 years we've been in existence. And we got a little sidetracked from radio time and other showcases, but I want to get back to a monthly gathering. And this could be a great topic where we could get together and talk about our memories, our suitcase memories, or what brought us here to New York. So let's talk about that.
We should. That's great.
I like that, suitcase memories. I like that a lot. Vera, what size are those medallions you're doing?
They're not that big. They're
That's what I
maybe
thought.
4
too.
inches, because I'm
Yeah.
also a jewelry maker. So I like to make them sort of the scale that you can still wear them, you see.
Uh-huh.
I think it's important. And also, I mean, I'm eventually going to create a whole wall of them. So it's going to take me a while. But
And you have a place in New York to go fire in their kiln?
yes, I do.
Uh-huh.
But then I might make some that are actually metal. That's something I'm eventually going to do.
right.
It's just a lot of projects.
Yeah, yeah. Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, that's
thank
our
you
5
so
minutes.
much.
So thank you.
Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Amazing. I can't believe that this is gonna be over soon. Time flew. We have our last artist, Tine Kindermann. So yeah, all yours.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen. Here we go. No, it's this one, is it? Okay. Now I'll make it big. All right. Okay. So I packed so many images in here. I just, since so many of you have been sharing where you're from, and it is so amazing that we are such an international group. I'm initially from West Berlin. I came to New York in 1990. And so when I thought about the theme of this talk, I pulled out some really old work because it refers to religion. And while I did not grow up in a particular religious family, in fact, my family was non-religious, religion was everywhere around us, and it was Christianity. And when I came to New York, I came here with a newborn baby. I'm actually here because my husband is American, so that's what brought me to New York. And then our son was 3 months old when I moved here. And I was very isolated. And I was going crazy having a little child, and I started then really making art more seriously than I had before. And one of the things that struck me was how images of motherhood were still so dominated by the image of the Madonna. So then I took this theme of the Madonna and I started to make my own Madonnas. So these are paintings that I'm not particularly proud of anymore, but I wanted to keep them in this talk. And I am frozen right now. My screen is frozen. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I think we can hear you.
Okay, great. And you can see the image.
Yes, the Madonna.
Okay, thank you so much. So this is actually based on a photo of me and our little son. And I was like, well, you know what? She's always just hanging out with the baby and she never seems to have to do any kitchen work. So here's a tired Madonna with bags under her eyes and a crying baby and a pot. And then the baby is always like naked, never wearing a diaper, and babies pee all over the place if they don't have a peeing child. And then this was the Annunciation, where the very nauseous Maria is presented with a pregnancy test by the angel. So that was my commentary on on what was happening to me. And then as I was pregnant with my second child, I couldn't paint anymore. And I moved into making pieces that were 3-dimensional. They were little boxes that I put together from things that I found in the street. And I started then going back into kind of my German childhood and the fairy tales collected by the Brothers Grimm. And this is a box that tells the story of Bluebeard, the woman who is married to a serial killer without knowing this, and who finds out by peeping into the room that she is not supposed to see. And we don't see what she sees, but we see her reaction to it. So this is, put together from things that I found in the street. And then I started sculpting these little figurines, and they are made out of Sculpey. And the next one is, okay, that's the story of Donkey Skin, which is a princess who escapes into the woods, and she lives in a tree because her father, who's the king, actually wants to marry her because she looks like her mother, who has passed away. And I was fascinated by these stories of these women who made it through these incredibly what's the word? It's like these horrible situations, and always came out okay. And also, they seem to be secretly having a really good time alone in the woods. So this is the piece that is in the show. And it's Lilith's staff, and Lilith, going back into Jewish and Christian mythology, is the first wife of Adam. She is the wife who doesn't obey. She is not made from Adam's rib. She's made as Adam's partner. And when Adam assumes, kind of the superior position, she says, I'm not having any of this, and she leaves. And she then becomes literally demonized. I mean, in Jewish mythology, she is a night demon who comes at night, and not only does she snatch babies, she also has sex with unsuspecting men when they sleep alone. So this is why I gave her I made her out of her staff out of a baby doll head, and I made a necklace of little penises. And then she always kind of has this penis tip on her head. But she is actually a great early feminist figure and has been reclaimed rightfully. So, okay, I think I have to talk faster. I returned to painting after 18 years of making these objects, and I explored fairy tales further. So I painted these are 4 by 8 feet, so they're very big. I painted fairy tale characters as represented by women who are not usually shown. So on the right side here, you see my version of Snow White. This is a friend of ours who is in her 70s. And, it's like Snow White, you never hear what happens after the kiss, right? So, but she actually becomes queen. So this is my Snow White. This is my friend Janet as the 13th fairy out of the Sleeping Beauty story, who is the angry fairy who curses the baby because she has not been invited to the celebration of the baby's birth. And I think she's rightfully angry. So, and my friend actually picked this character. And this is again the character of Donkey Skin, but this is a trans woman making her own clothes. And I thought that was a very, very fitting representation. And this is my Sleeping Beauty. This is a young woman who has a medical condition that doesn't allow her to lose weight. And I think she's incredibly beautiful, but of course she doesn't fit the Disney princess. I also think that Sleeping Beauty, sleeping for 100 years, probably has really delicious and luscious dreams. So, and this is for size, that's me in front of these paintings. So they're rather big. So the thing that I figured out after I returned to painting was that I actually like to paint big. And this is Snow White. This is the 13th fairy. This is all kinds of fur, donkey skin. And also I realized that I had painted our son, who was the newborn in the photos you saw first, as Isaac. Okay, I'm gonna go much faster. All right. Politics. All right. After the election, I made a series called We the People. These are all portraits of indigenous people, Native Americans, enslaved people, and immigrants, the people who built this country. There's like 25 of them. This is a painting of an Armenian Jew in this series. He came through Ellis Island. This is a Native American girl. This is actually Trump's mother, who was an immigrant. This is Trump himself. And it says, when I grow up, I'm gonna make sure other kids don't have their mommies either, because I spent so much time trying to figure out how this man could become so evil. This is Mitch McConnell, who had polio as a kid. And so it says, when I grow up, I will make sure other kids suffer from a virus just like I did. Because again, it was like, how can people turn into such monsters? These are all big. Also, this is for size. Again, Mitch McConnell with an Ecclesiastes quote, everyone's toil is for their mouth, that yet their appetite is never satisfied. The whole hypocrisy of people claiming to be Christian and being monstrous. This was my reaction to what happened in Portland. This is, I'm coming to the last pieces. I painted Walter Wallace Jr. and Breonna Taylor really big. They're in the window of our assembly member in our neighborhood, because I was trying to figure out how I could put my skills to service in this crazy year. And that's the end of my presentation.
Wow, thank you so much, Tina. That was, wow, that was great. Thank you so much. So to make it fair to everyone, I think we are gonna go with 5 minutes of Q&A for Tina. And after the 5 minutes, since it's getting late, we are gonna do 5 minutes of general Q&A. So this 5 minutes, please, let's focus on Tina's talk before we go to the general Q&A. If someone wants to comment something and to like wrap up this amazing evening. So does anybody have a question, comment? Well, I'm gonna say something since nobody's talking yet. I'm fascinated by all your work, but the paintings of the babies, wow, like I imagine a whole series of those ones. Like 2 of them is not enough. Like if you made that series with all the people around the world, I mean, it would be a really interesting journey of research and understanding and going in depth. And wow, I think that's a very strong political work that I would encourage you to do more of it, because 1, it's super educational, 2, it helps us emphasize. And we would think that why should we emphasize with all these villains and all these horrible people out there, you know, like why should we emphasize with Trump? He's an asshole. I think that we should emphasizing is not like feeling pity for them, or I feel that if we all learn to emphasize, no matter who the person is, we would understand like many things. And that doesn't mean that we would forgive them, but that would invite us to look at things, I don't know, a little bit different. I'm not gonna say anything else, but yeah, that work was pretty amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Tine,
yes.
No, yeah, sorry.
No, please.
I'm intrigued about yourself, about your story, because you said that you born in West Berlin, right?
Yes.
So at what age did you move to the United States?
I was 30.
Okay, because you have like it's very, very different. All the evolution of your work until now is very different, and it's completely political from my perspective. And it's very interesting because you know, you came from a country full of contrasts and changes in less than 100 years. So tell me about how it transformed your way of seeing art, transformed your way of thinking. Tell me a little bit more about that, please.
You mean how the history of my country or the changes that it went through?
More, well, I'm interested in your, because I'm in love with Germany. So all this stuff, it's a lot of yeah, it's like a mess. And then they're like potencia mundial, like, you know, so I don't know, tell me, I hear you.
I mean, we have so little time left. I'm gonna put my my website in the chat because there is more work on my website. I'm also a performer and I have made recordings of German folk songs. I went back into that. I also have a series of little fake collectibles that deal with the Nazi era in the shape of little Hummel figures, fake Hummel figures. Yeah, I don't think I can answer this. This is such a big question.
Yeah,
I don't know. All I can say is that moving to New York made me revisit Germany in a whole different way, and going back into the fairy tales, going back into the folk songs, going back into the Nazi era and how Germany dealt with that. And I think it informs how I try to incorporate social awareness and politics into my work today. I am super intrigued and drawn to the work of the Weimar Republic, and a lot of my other work actually goes back to that, both thematically and also style-wise. Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is a partial answer.
It's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, if I can just make a comment, you know, since the focus of this is on religion and spirituality, I just got such a kick out of the fact that you know, attributed motives to Trump and to the Grim Reaper. You know, you wonder what makes people do things, what makes people evil, or you know, or jealous, so jealous, or Mitch McConnell, I do not have any good feelings for whatsoever. But you know, I think it's wonderful that you did that. How many more people have you done that to or with?
Those are the only two so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good job. Love the Madonnas too. I love them too. Great work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Heidi. And I still don't know how to pronounce your name. Arantxa, for giving us this opportunity and for putting together the show. It's really, it's such a treat, you know, in this crazy time to be able to, and also to meet all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, all the artists.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes. Yeah. Does anybody have a burning question you'd like to ask before we head into closing comments? Everybody's taking it all in and embracing, right?
Well, I think if there's no more comments, I think it was a very rich and nourishing evening. Thank you, everyone who hopped in. Thank you to my beautiful co-curator Heidi for inviting me to this journey. That's been amazing in many, many ways. We have 1.5 weeks to the closing of our show. we have good news that we're gonna have an in-person closing Friday, 2nd of April. So yeah, we were gonna do it on a Wednesday. We pushed everything to make it on a Friday, so it's easier for the people who finish work, can come by after. So we'll be sending more information about that very, very soon, before this week ends. And yeah, there's another artist talk on Thursday. It's gonna be our last artist talk, The Power of Voice. Myra Coy is gonna be talking on that one. Andrea Young as well. Many other artists. Heidi Russell is gonna talk in that one. Oh, and we have another talk. That's right. That's not the last one. It's another talk that Colette's gonna be there with me and another friend. That's gonna be a Tuesday 30th. So yeah, we have 2 more talks coming up. Stay tuned. Thank you everybody for being here. 2 hours went flying out the window super fast. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll send more information about gallery hours, the closing of our show, and yeah, if there's anything else I'm missing, Heights. Is there anything else I forgot to say, Heidi? Or hello?
I can't hear you.
Heidi, can you hear me?
No, very faint.
Is there anything else that that you want to say to close a talk?
Yeah, just I put the gallery hours in the chat, and but you'll get an email that recaps what's going to be happening the rest of the exhibition, and ways to stay connected, because this is just the beginning. For those of you who have now been indoctrinated and tapped as Solanistas, so our platform is meant to connect artists around the world, all generations, backgrounds, stages of career, disciplines, cultures. So this is just the beginning, and those of you who've been Solanistas for a while, we're going to keep on rolling. And so if you have ideas, throw them my way anytime, but please engage with each other outside of the exhibition. But we have a week and a half, so thanks again to Arantxa for really organizing these amazing talks, the topics. This is going to be a great model for doing this every year, so we're very excited. So thank you to our artists tonight. We love you. Your work is amazing. Thank you for sharing, and thank you to our guests for being here tonight and joining us.
Yeah, thank you everybody. Really. Bye, Priscilla.
Stay healthy. Stay healthy.
Yeah, Barbara also. A lot of friends here. So excited.
Bye.
See you soon.
Thank you, Heidi.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Linda.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you, everyone.
Don't forget your vaccine. Get your vaccine.
Yep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes,
Pamela,
thank
oh my
you,
gosh,
everybody.
it's been so long, Pamela. See you soon. Doreen came in the first. She was our first one tonight. Take care, everybody. Don't forget to turn off, leave your, press leave. So we close.
You know what? Let me finish the meeting, Heidi.
Okay.